Welcome to SYNC-O-WICZ, hosted by the fearless Linda SYNC-O-WICZ. She's syncing you up with the latest in election integrity, from breaking headlines to critical updates you won't hear anywhere else. With Linda, it's facts first as she leads the fight for one vote for one legal voter. Stay informed, stay empowered. Let's jump in.
Hi, and welcome to SYNC-O-WICZ. I'm Linda SYNC-O-WICZ. I'm the founder and CEO of Fight Voter Fraud. And thank you, everyone who are watching us on YouTube, Rumble, OBBM Network TV, Spotify, and all the other platforms. And please like and share. Get our information to as many people as possible. Well, this week, my guest is Matt Meck. He is from Unauthorized. He is also one of the board members for Fight Voter Fraud. Then we're going to be talking about 5 different states, and those states are Arizona, Kansas, Maine, Michigan, Pennsylvania. We'll go to our election terms, our election trivia, national news, vote notes, international, and as always, my final thoughts, which are completely unscripted. So now we're going to go right to Matt Meck. Matt, welcome.
Good morning. How are you?
Great. And thank you so much for getting up early to be on our program. You're way across the country from Connecticut.
No problem.
So you have a big event that is coming up on June 15th to the 17th that we absolutely want people to know about.
Yeah, it is Fight Voter Fraud, right? The site, if folks go to it, it's Fight Voter Fraud, sorry, Fraud Fighter Summit. See, it's in my, you're in my head. Is the fraudfightersummit.us. And interestingly, someone I work with, you met here in March 107, September of last year, he asked me to start planning this out. Before we started seeing all this fraud really come to the national fore. So the purpose of this is to unite the front lines in fighting fraud, healthcare fraud, bond fraud, property tax fraud, Act Blue, mortgage fraud. And that's going to be like on Tuesday, right? And we're going to have Wayne Allen Root opening that day up. Maybe Secretary Kennedy remoting in about the stuff they're doing at HHS. And then Steve Bannon, currently going to remote in. We're trying to get a schedule to be here. He'll close out that day on Tuesday, the 16th. The 17th, that's when you're speaking. We have it all on election fraud. I mean, you, Ed Solomon, Martine Rodil, Professor Clements, Mark Cook, to show that all this other fraud you saw on Tuesday, enabled by election fraud. And what we are honored to do, Juan has a dear friend, Dennis Rice, who worked this magic for us, Jim Caviezel's new movie, Dark Horse, which is about Bolsonaro, President Bolsonaro, and what happened to him in Brazil. The world premiere of that movie is going to be Monday night, the 15th of June at the Ahern Hotel.
Wow. I am so looking forward to this event. I mean, and it takes a lot to pull this together. You've got some incredible.
I lost my hair doing it. Yeah. Yes, it's
some of the other people you have, like Attorney Peter Tickton. Yeah, and you have Attorney Peter Tickton will be there.
Martine Rodil, Bannon, retired police deputy Sean Taylor, and he's been working with Mark Fincham and others, briefing DOJ and about a lot of this Act Blue and magic mortgage fraud that's going on in the country. And I know we've got Joe Hoff was going to moderate for us. Of course, he had a stroke. He's doing well, thank goodness. So David Nino Rodriguez, Nino's Corner, he's going to moderate for us. He's a former heavyweight boxing champion. He's got a great podcast he does. So it's going to be quite a lot. And I just checked in today. We're at 450 registrations so far.
Oh, fantastic. Wow. So that's June 15th to the 17th. So there's still room for people to come to the event. So how do they find out about it? Where do they go for that information?
If they go to fraudfightersummit.us, fraudfightersummit.us, it'll take you right there. You'll see the registration. You'll see the flyers of who's speaking, the macro schedule, the flyer for Dark Horse, and you can simply register right there for it. You'll get a receipt from Stripe that you paid. I will see that you registered. And any questions, there's a phone number on the site. They can email me if they have any questions. I can follow up. But it'll be great. We have folks coming from Hawaii. We got 5 folks coming from Canada.
Wow. Well, this is so important. I mean, even some of the stuff that you listed out, even like Act Blue. Act Blue are the ones that actually raise the money for the Democrats.
And Win Red's kind of not without guilt on the other side of the equation. And it's interesting. Yeah, I think I was telling you before we started the show, a federal law enforcement official. This person was briefly at our event on 25 March. This person looking at fraud everywhere. And when we were talking, this person said, "Man, it's not so much where is there fraud, it's where is there not fraud." I mean, they're finding it everywhere, Linda, everywhere. It seems to be systemic. How did it get this bad?
And it's been going unchecked for literally decades. It's not something that just happened a couple of years ago. This has just been going on and on and on and on. So with everything that Trump is doing and JD Vance, he's in charge of the fraud across the United States, not, making it, but preventing it and finding it. And he's doing a phenomenal job out there.
He is. You got Colin McDonald, who is the assistant AG in DOJ, kind of all the fraud efforts, both in the civil and criminal division, are kind of rolled up to him now. You've got Brandon Gill, Representative Brandon Gill out of Texas, who is now a subcommittee under House oversight on fraud. And it seems to be certainly being looked at with a microscope. And to me, this is not a political issue. You should be outraged, whatever party you want to be, that maybe you're a great social welfare person, wonderful, but the kids that you thought were getting that money are going to some politician, or they're going across the pond to some other country of no idea doing what with that money.
So, this is great that everything is being looked into. Remember all the kickback and fighting back the Democrats did with Elon Musk when we were talking about Doge? It's like, oh my God, you can't do that. You can't do that. Well, we know why. USAID. There is so much that has gone on, and every day we're seeing something new that's happening concerning fraud here in the United States. I'm not sure how the law was being pushed forward in California. They wanted to stop people like Nick from actually doing investigations, to actually have it criminalized with them videotaping what they believe to be fraud. You can't make this stuff up.
You can't. And I remember high school and college growing up in Florida, and they call it the Sunshine Laws, right? And I think, again, irrespective of your party, no one should be averse to having the disinfectant of light and eyes looking at things. And a friend of mine had a great term he told me some years ago called covalence. And how you stop this, one, is getting we the people back in charge of things. It's our government, right? But covalence, which means watchers watching the watchers. So you want so many eyes on something that, boy, if you're tempted to cheat or steal or whatever, you might get away with it, but it's going to be damn hard.
Yes. And some places are implementing a lot of different things as far as making sure you have your ID, that it's actually you. I was telling my assistant this morning, I had to run to the bank and take out somewhat of a larger sum of money from my own account. And my driver's license, they not only took that, they ran it through a system. They told me they had to get a second authorization. It wasn't that much money, but I was just like, wow, they're actually protecting my account, which I thought was great. I was running a little late, but still,
But yeah,
I think.
Yeah. And when you opened for unauthorized, the 501c4, when I opened up the account, I had to show 2 forms of ID. I showed my military ID, I showed my driver's license, because they want to make sure it's you. And I know you're going to be talking about voter registrations and so forth, and the importance of that in our elections on the 17th, Wednesday. And Linda, it's common sense stuff.
Yeah, well, the common sense is not so common these days. That's the problem. Yeah. And having this summit, like I said, I am so looking forward to this summit with the people that are going to be there. Professor Dave Clemente is going to be there. He's fabulous, absolutely fabulous.
He is.
He's got a great backstory too.
Oh my God. And then what he and his family have been through just for exposing the truth. And, he'll be here, Ed Solomon, and Ed Solomon he'll present on 2 parts of the day, right? And the first part, I call it math for dummies, right? So he said, Ed, eighth grade stuff, right? Folks who don't know polynomials, second degree derivatives, Lagrange multiply. No, just give us the 30-minute, everybody understands it. And then later that night, it's just Wednesday, we're bringing mathematicians and others to really go into the math that what they found. And Ed's talking with Craig Fuller and Dr. Paquette, Mitch Vexler, Mark Cook, and they all get it. They all see the flip functions. And this is just in the tabulators, right? So you have other parts, the registration parts, another threat vector, the validation and the reporting, but they're seeing their official term, they call it lockstep parallel motion or synchronized voting, but they're seeing this all over the country.
Remember, we need to do same day, in-person, paper ballots, hand counted. And I know,
You're
unfortunately,
going to see that on the books we're going to give out right there.
Yes.
Same day, in person.
We need that because, as I have been telling everybody, every single machine in the country has basically been infected one way or another, whether it's through the software, through manipulation. You don't need to be connected to the internet. That's one of the key things. Everybody says, oh, you can't do it. We're not connected to the internet. Well, you don't need that. They use the chips in the phone as well. So before we go, you want to give us an update on Tina Peters?
Well, yeah. Well, let's see. Tina is to be set free on parole 1 June of this year, thanks to the efforts of Peter Tickton and John Case and Pat McSweeney and her whole Stephanie Lambert, the whole legal team. And gosh, what a wonderful woman. And what we've done, Linda, is I've reached out to Apollo, who's been helping Tina and helping with her show and so forth, and to Peter Tickton, and said, if she's allowed and if she would like to, we'll bring her down here. Juan said, put her up in the Trump Hotel. We've got a dear friend. She has a home, beautiful mansion, not too far away. Put her up there, have her just get dialed up, relax, just get back into life again, and doesn't have to say a word. Just be our guest of honor, sit there and absorb the love. So hopefully, Linda, will be able to have Tina as our guest of honor at the event, just to simply be there.
That would be fantastic. So again, it is June 15th to the 17th, and it is the Fraud Fighter Summit.org. So if anybody wants to get any information on that, .us, .us. And that's June 15th to the 7th in Las Vegas at the Ahern Hotel is where the event is actually being held.
It is. And you might arrive, morning, early afternoon, because the check-in will be about 3 o'clock, buffet about 5, the movie starting at about 7:30.
And it's going to be a wild couple of days with all the guests that are there. So thank you so much, Matt, for coming on. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Linda, thank you. Take care.
You too. All right, we're going to go to a quick break and we'll be right back.
At Fight Voter Fraud, we work to ensure every legal vote is counted, and no unlawful vote ever diminishes the voice of we the people. We're fighting for you in courtrooms and communities nationwide to protect transparency, accountability, and fairness in every election. Our mission is simple: one vote for one legal voter. This is our country. This is our vote. Let's protect it together.
Hi, I'm Linda SYNC-O-WICZ from SYNC-O-WICZ, and I'm here to tell you about an exciting new series that we have just added called SYNC-O-WICZ Presents Candidate Spotlight. And this is open to any candidate, any party, anywhere in the country that wants to have a 20-minute interview. So you can talk about yourself, your platform, your campaign, and we'll help you get it out there. So give us a call, send us an email, or visit our website. Thank you. Hi, and welcome back to SYNC-O-WICZ again. I'm Linda SYNC-O-WICZ, the founder and CEO of Fight Voter Fraud. Our guest we just had on before the break was Matt Meck. Absolutely wonderful man, wonderful. He served in the Marines. He was a lieutenant colonel. He is now head of Unauthorized, and they're putting on that event June 15th to the 17th, and I am so excited to be one of the speakers there. So hope any of you that are out in that area at that time, if you can attend, that would be great. All right, so we're going to first talk about Arizona. Arizona, this is from WJZZ 91.5, and it's from May 14th. Judge won't pause ruling ahead of election in fight between Maricopa County supervisors, HEAP. Now, we did talk about this story probably a few weeks ago. So with Arizona's primary elections just a month away, a judge won't pause a court ruling with wide-ranging impacts on the Maricopa County's elections, despite concerns from the Board of Supervisors that it will cause chaos this year. Now, remember, the Board of Supervisors, they actually usurped the powers of Justin Heap, the Republican recorder. You know, you can't do that. But anyway, so Maricopa County Superior Judge Scott Blaney ruled in favor of Republican recorder Justin Heap in the lawsuit he filed against the Board of Supervisors over control over different parts of the county's elections. Now, there's 2 counties in Arizona that have their own Board of Elections and their own voter rolls, and Pima County is one and Maricopa County is the other. The other 13 are done statewide. So the order seemingly resolved many issues the recorder and supervisors have fought over for more than a year since Heap took office in 2025. Blaney ordered the board to give Heap back control of his own information technology systems after the supervisors consolidated the recorder's staff under its own supervision. The judge also provided some clarity on Arizona's complicated election laws, I would say that's an understatement, which divide administrative duties between recorders and supervisors. But the supervisors asked the judge to stay the ruling, arguing that making drastic changes ahead of an upcoming election season, such as splitting apart the intertwined IT system, will cause confusion for election workers and voters. Fortunately, Blaney didn't buy that argument, saying the board has had plenty of time to prepare. So they're giving this excuse, oh my God, we can't get it done in time. Well, too bad. It needs to be done. Give him back the power that is supposed to be under his office. So there's a little more to the story. If you want to read it, you can go to the website and you'll see where that story is. Now we're going to go on to Kansas. This is from KUR NPR, Kansas City, May 13, 2026. All right, here's a hint. When there's NPR in any of our stories, they're the tissue box crowd. There are wow-wows. So a former Kansas mayor who voted as a non-citizen, illegal, is now in federal immigration detention. And remember, we talked about this story a number of months ago. He'd been mayor and then ran again for mayor. And then guess what? He wasn't a U.S. citizen. Okay, so former Coldwell, Kansas City Mayor Joe Caballos surrendered to federal immigration agents at a detention center in Wichita on Wednesday. He said voting was a, quote, honest mistake, unquote, because he believed his permanent legal status allowed him to vote. He had a green card, okay? If you have not sworn and gone through the classes to become a U.S. citizen, you're not a U.S. citizen. Not an honest mistake. In fact, the way he got caught was trying to fix it. That's how he ended up getting caught. So again, the former mayor of Coldwell, Kansas, walked into a nondescript office building in Wichita on Wednesday morning and turned himself into immigration and custom enforcement agents as ordered by the agency this week. Joe Caballos' surrender to federal immigration detention comes less than a month after he pled guilty to voting illegally as a non-citizen. Caballos is a legal permanent resident or green card holder, but not a citizen. There's a big difference. I'm obviously nervous, he said from the parking lot of the detention building. I don't know what's going to happen, and I don't know where they're going to take me and what I can and can't do there. Well, I'm sorry. You voted in the elections. You held office. Unbelievable. And nobody ever even did a background check to find out that he is not a U.S. citizen. So I'm sorry. You're going to get what you deserve. And I believe you may be taking a plane back to Mexico. Okay, we're going to go on to Maine. Maine, this is from Beacon from May 14th, 2026. I got to tell you, I give myself notes on these stories because I read so many. And what I have across the top under it is LOL, 3 times in capital letters. So we know where this story is going. We might need more of these. Sorry. Okay, so nonpartisan election observers are needed for Maine June 9th primary. And I suppose the reason that I put the LOL on there is from this first sentence. The League of Women Voters of Maine kicks off a series of election observer trainings today in preparation for the June 9th semi-open primary. Now, as most of you know, and I've said repeatedly, anytime you see League of Women Voters, it is one of these. Way to the left. Way to the left. So always do the opposite of what they say. They might have some information in there that's pertinent, but okay, they're calling themselves a non-partisan program will show volunteers to observe and report on voting conditions at polling places across the 16 counties. Executive Director Chrissy Hart said that the data is used to help improve future elections and boost the public's overall confidence in the electoral process. I don't get that. They're using data? What do they mean they're using data? I'm talking to Tim, my producer over here. What the heck do they mean by that? Well, I'm going to skip farther down this story. It's one of those days today. And I have this highlighted quote. We want people to understand what it means to have state and local administrative elections and why that makes them so secure, she said, and why some of these concerns that there is voter fraud, that's just the furthest thing from the truth. We need to get a laugh track. Honestly, it's crazy. It's crazy. They think there is absolutely nothing wrong in our voting system when we are one of the worst in the world for our election integrity. Wow. Okay, so now we're going to go on to Michigan. Michigan, this is from the Gateway Pundit, May 14th, 2026. The one thing I can tell you with the Gateway Pundit, you don't need these. You don't need these. Their stories are vetted and they actually tell the truth. So this one is Michigan County Clerk Anthony Forlini finds 198 more non-U.S. citizens summoned for jury duty from the Secretary of State Benson's driver's license database, and 11 of them were actually registered to vote. This isn't the first time. There's a bunch they've already come up with. Macomb County Clerk Anthony G. Forlini is exposing what Michigan Secretary of State and Democratic gubernatorial candidate Jocelyn Benson desperately wants to hide: non-citizens on her corrupt voter rolls. Okay, non-citizens. League of Women Voters in Maine should take a look at what's going on in Michigan. It's most likely going on in Maine too. So according to Macomb County Clerk Anthony Forlini's May 13th press release, in the first quarter of 2026 alone, 198 non-U.S. citizens were summoned for jury duty and forced to self-report with green cards and other proof that they are not American citizens and ineligible to serve. Of those 198, 11 have been registered to vote in Michigan's Qualified Voter File, the QVF, at some point, and a shocking 7 remain listed as active right now. So even though they put out the information, they're still on the active voter list. On April 28, 2026, Forlini's office handed this explosive data over to the Michigan Bureau of Elections. This follows Forlini's earlier January 26 bombshell, where his team identified 239 non-citizens in Macomb jury pools, Over just 4 months, with 14 of them registered to vote, 10 are still on the voter rolls, and 4 of them actually voted. Felony, 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 and 1 voted multiple times. The pattern's crystal clear. This is not a glitch. It's a systemic failure under Benson's watch. Now, remember, Jocelyn Benson is the one who announced her candidacy inside a government building. And when you're inside a government building, you are not supposed to be politicking or making announcements like that, which she did because she was Secretary of State and still is at the moment, but she was running for governor. And in their state, the only one who could press charges is that the Secretary of State would have to file a complaint with the Attorney General's office. And of course, she wasn't going to do that. And now, with all the problems that they're still having in Michigan, she's running for governor. Think about it. Do you really think that's a good idea? Let's look at her track record, okay? As a public official. Crazy, crazy, crazy. And it says here, and it gets far worse. Just yesterday, Gateway Pundit dropped an exclusive bombshell. 6 non-citizens from the Department of Homeland Security's worst of the worst criminal aliens list are registered voters in Michigan, with at least 2 casting ballots in multiple elections. Many remain active on the QVF even after being deported back to their home countries. They're not even here, and they're still in the voter rolls. That's why we don't want absentee ballots sent out. Case in point right there. Oh my goodness. Yes, Michigan has problems. They have a lot of problems. Lots and lots of problems. Lots of fraud problems. Okay, now I'm going on to Pennsylvania. This is from 90.5 WESA. This is from May 15th, 2026. Pennsylvania, blah, blah. PA, primary election 2026. How to spot and report voter intimidation in Pennsylvania. On May 19th, voters across Pennsylvania will head to the polls to cast their ballots in the primary election. Every voter in every election is entitled to vote without intimidation, interference, or discrimination. Voter intimidation is illegal under federal and state law, and according to the Pennsylvania Department of State, it's also rare. Okay, so we need to put out this whole big thing on let's figure out what's voter intimidation, but it's very rare. However, several incidents of suspected intimidation in recent years have brought more attention to the issue. Well, at least it prompted action by the state, which I guess is a good thing, letting them know, what intimidation is. So as it goes through, it's a long story, I got to tell you. They go into all kinds of detail with everything. But I wanted to bring you forward to what does the law actually say? Federal and state protections against intimidation cover the entire voting process, from registration to casting a ballot to counting votes, and apply to both the voter and election workers. And as I read farther into the story, I thought this was pretty funny. The question was, are guns allowed in polling places? Believe it or not, it says it depends. Just like, what? So it depends on the polling place. Firearms are not allowed in polling places if they're housed in any of the following locations: a private property that forbids firearms. Why would they be voting on private property? I don't get that. Okay. A school, that's a good one. A courthouse, that's even better. Or any location where Pennsylvania law prohibits the carrying of firearms. This applies even if you are the lawful owner of a firearm. And then the other thing I was going to let you know about, there's another question here. It says, can I wear clothing in support of the candidate I'm voting for? Here in Connecticut, not within 75 feet of the polling location, not in the location, nothing. But in Pennsylvania, they say, yes, you can wear clothing, buttons, stickers, and more to show support for the candidate you're voting for. However, campaigning for the candidate inside the polling place is not allowed and is considered electioneering. Who would be able to make the determination if you're electioneering? I mean, if I came in wearing a Trump hat, a Trump button, a Trump shirt, a pair of pants that say Patriot Trump, I mean, if I had all kinds of things tacked over me, is that considered electioneering? I don't understand why they would let anything in a polling location at all. So it also says election officials and poll watchers can't wear any partisan apparel, including buttons. Can't believe they actually had to add including buttons. But every law is different in the states. I mean, that's one of the nice things in a way with some states that actually run the elections with somewhat of integrity, but not for others. But hopefully we're educating you on some of the different things that go on in the different states. Now we're going to get to the election term. U.S. Election Assistance Commission is where this is from, and this was checked on May 18th, 2026. The word is, actually it's 3 words, third party candidate. A candidate seeking nomination for office with a political party affiliation other than the 2 major political parties, Republican and Democratic. So anybody else is considered a third party. Election trivia. This is from the College Today on May 18th, 2026. Why is a Republican state called a red state and a Democratic state called a blue state? We're going to go to a quick break and we'll be right back.
We need your help to ensure one vote for one legal voter. Join Fight Voter Fraud. Request training, get the potential double-registered, double voter data for your town, and donate to support the fight. Visit fightvoterfraud.org because election integrity starts with you.
Hi, I'm Linda SYNC-O-WICZ. I'm the founder and CEO of Fight Voter Fraud. I'm very excited to announce Operation Verify Voters 2026. This is where everyone can get involved. Every single person can get involved in helping make sure we have transparent and clean elections. The most important thing is cleaning the voter rolls. Who knows better than you on your street? You know when people have sold their homes. You know when people moved. You know when other people have passed away. Those are people we need to make sure are no longer on the voter rolls. And it's really easy to do. We can help you. What we're going to be doing is setting up training sessions that you sign up for, and we will walk you through the process. It's simple, it's easy, and everyone can get involved. So you're going to go to fightvoterfraud.org or scan the QR code, and it'll bring you right to our Operation Verify Voters 2026. And our goal is to get every single state involved in this initiative. Everyone can make a difference. Thank you. Hi, and welcome back to SYNC-O-WICZ. When I left you last, we had our trivia question of the week. Why is a Republican state called a red state and a Democratic state called a blue state? The answer is, it's a very recent phenomenon, actually due to the televised election night coverage and the need to color code electoral college maps. For most of history, the parties did not have any color. Still want to know who chose the red and the blue. I don't know, we'll find that, but that's the answer to our trivia question. So now we're going to go on to our national news of the week. Is from Wisconsin Watch, May 15th, 2026. The FBI is contacting Wisconsin election officials, and here's what we know. The probe comes as the Trump administration looks into how the 2020 election was conducted in several other states. The federal government's probe into the 2020 election has reached Wisconsin with several current and former election officials, including multiple people in Milwaukee, confirming that they have been interviewed or approached by the FBI. Before I continue with the story, yay! It's about time. And we know you have the statute of limitations. So that's one of the other things they're going to whine about. Why do we want to know about 2020? Because we want to know the officials and the people that were involved with the fraud at the time. Because I'm telling you, there's a lot of people that are still in there that did a lot of nefarious things. So it says the exact nature of the investigation remains unclear. We know which way this story is leaning. What do you mean the exact nature remains unclear? It's just sometimes these people, when they write stuff, it's ridiculous. Though it appears at least somewhat centered around the 2020 election, the agency's election investigations elsewhere in the country have featured subpoenas for ballots and other election records, but legal experts still say it won't be easy for the federal government to convince a court to give it access to ballots. It should be super easy to do. Unbelievable. So this is a rather longer story. If you want to read about it, finally, they are looking into Wisconsin, into Milwaukee stuff that has gone on, and as it should be done. Whew. Okay, now we're going to go on to vote notes. This is from KSAT on May 17th, 2026. Trump administration promotes program to check voter eligibility. Critics fear midterm purge. Oh, geez. This is from Topeka, Kansas. Even as Democratic officials fight the effort in court, the Trump administration has run millions of voter registrations through the government databases to determine their eligibility in the process that critics worry could end up purging valid voters from the rolls before the November elections. At least 67 million registrations, primarily from Republican-controlled states, have gone through a beefed-up verification program at the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, and tens of thousands of those have been flagged as potential non-citizens or people who have died. Some states allow only a month for people to prove their eligibility and suspend it immediately. A month? How long does it take for you to prove that you're a U.S. citizen? Not very long. The scanning of the state voter rolls at the national level is part of a broader effort by Republican President Donald Trump to federalize certain election functions and promote his messaging. You want to read the rest of the story yourself? Go right ahead. I mean, when they start with stuff like, I'm telling you, it's the longest. These were all those from that one. I mean,
tell me how you really feel.
I know. Tim just said, tell them how I really feel. When they start with that crap, that is just so ridiculous. So I guess that'll leave me more time for my final thoughts after international news. Let's see. This is on Colombia. Colombia, that's in South America. And this is from Statista. And this is from April 27th, 2026. Voting intention for the first round of presidential elections in Colombia in April 2026 by candidate. So I guess they do a number of rounds because more than just a few people want to run for president. And this was published by S. Gallen on April 27th of 2026. On Sunday, May 31st, 2026, the first round of presidential elections will be held in Colombia. According to the latest poll, Ivan Cepeda is leading the race with 44.3% of voting intentions. Cepeda is the political heir of President Gustavo Petro and the official candidate of the historic PAC coalition. However, if no candidate receives more than 50% of the vote on May 31st, a second round runoff between the two top finishers will take place in June. So some of the particulars are Ivan Cepeda, he is in the polling is at 44.3%. Alvarado de la Espriella is at 21.5%. Paloma Valencia is at 19.8%. And there's actually 13 candidates that are running for president in Colombia. This survey time was between April 15th to the 24th. They actually interviewed 3,800 respondents. Obviously, they had to be 18 years or older. And they surveyed across 149 municipalities in Colombia. And these were actually face-to-face interviews. Wow. Those people are pretty gutsy too. We're talking Colombia. To actually go in front of somebody and say it instead of being able to do it like over the phone so nobody sees your face. But wow. So we'll find out what goes on in Colombia. May 31st is when they vote. And if it goes to a second round, if nobody gets 50%, it'll end up going to a second round in June. So now we're going to go to my final thoughts. As I say always, I never know exactly what I'm going to say when it comes to my final thoughts. I can say more and more stuff that I am reading on the left basically reinforces the Trump derangement syndrome. I mean, we've got Hakeem Jeffries losing his mind when Virginia wasn't able to keep their gerrymandered redistricting that went against the Constitution after spending, what, $61 or $63 million to confuse the voters on something that it shouldn't have been done. So, yay, that was turned around. Then we had recently Tennessee, where they were complaining because now they don't have the strict Black districts, which you should not have the districts based on race. But you know who's in that district? It's a female Black woman. But the problem is she's a Republican. I mean, so their argument kind of goes out the window. And fortunately, the legislators in Tennessee, the ones that disrupted and were standing on their desks and swearing at police officers and people, these were the legislators on the Democratic side. Most of them have actually been removed from their different committees. And I think they were going after at least one of them for what he did to a state trooper. Not 100% sure whether it's been filed or not. But the crazy, crazy, crazy stuff that we're seeing across the country. Think to yourself, what would your grandmother or grandfather think about what is going on now? Do you think we should have illegals voting in U.S. elections? Really? They're the generation, and your great-grandparents are the generation where we had the most influx of people into our country legally, because there's a legal way to come into our country. And the way it was set up was that the people coming in would have someone sponsoring them, which meant they would have a job. They would have somebody to live with, making sure that they were healthy, which was another part, is to make sure you were not bringing people in who were sick or infirmed into our country that was just really starting off. Think about it. Think what your great-grandparents did to become U.S. citizens. And then we allow what's going on here in the country. People on the voter rolls that aren't even U.S. citizens getting into our country, taking the jobs of American citizens, taking the housing of American citizens. Worse yet, taking money literally out of your pocket, out of the mouths of your children, because we are a generous nation. We will help anybody, but we have rules, and those rules have not been followed up until recently, up until January 20th, 2025, when they are really been enforced, when our commander-in-chief was sworn into office for the second time. He's doing something about it. And that's where we hear on the left all these issues of everything that's going on and how horrible things are. But I'll tell you, the reason why the Democrats and the far left-leaning liberals have no clue what is going on in our country is because of the media. The media itself. I'm not going to tell you who it was yesterday, a close family member. And I actually asked if she had registered her child for the $1,000 a year he's eligible for until he's 18. She had no clue whatsoever. So I told her the website to go to. She looked it up on her phone. She could not believe it. Well, who knows about this? I know all the Republicans do. I said, anybody who listens to the real news has known about it. She was absolutely floored. She could not get over this. So anyway, she put her application in, and like a minute or two later, she gets a response saying, there's additional paperwork that they're going to have to make sure that she and her son are U.S. citizens, and that everything should be done, and the account would be opened the first week of July. She's like, you're kidding. And I said, no. And she said, it says here I can put in up to $5,000 myself each year. And I'm like, yes. What, did they just do this recently? Like, no. No. It's been being talked about for almost a year. It's been implemented for a while. So she was somewhat confused over that, again, because of the media not letting the nice things that Trump has been doing for the American people. And then I said, do you know about Trump RX? And she said, what? And I said, the prescriptions, Trump has made it so that the pricing is equal. Like, say, Germany had a particular pill or medication that they were selling for $20. We were paying, I don't know, $200, $1,000. Now, Germany is paying $30. And the United States, we can now pay $30. She said, you're kidding. I said, nope, it's there. I said, go to Trump RX. There's another program that he has done. So this was the first time with my interaction with this particular person that she actually had her eyes opened, and I wasn't being attacked because of what I believe and what I believe in our country. Believe it or not, I was actually listening to one of the episodes that I had done because some people had sent in compliments. I never look back at my stuff. And I put it on to listen, and she actually listened. And when I had brought up something about, with the 47-year war that Trump is ending, she actually asked me after that, she goes, so when are gas prices coming down? And I said, very soon, very soon. She said, we don't have enough oil. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We have more than enough oil. And remember, as I've said before, it is a global commodity, a world commodity. So the pricing is done for the entire world. We in the United States could supply the entire world with oil, and we'd still have more than enough for ourselves. So it's not the lack of oil. The gas prices, as soon as either the agreement with Iran is signed, and we have to keep an eye on them because, we better get the fire extinguishers with the ones from Iran. The liar, pants on fire. Never turn your back on them, I'll tell you. And if it's not a signed agreement, then it's, and they can start all over with people who deserve to be here in our world that are not assassinating their own people. Remember, 35 to 40,000 of their own citizens they murdered in 36 hours. Over 1,000 of United States citizens were killed. So many people, all these terrorist groups that they support, all the money that Obama had given them, everything that Biden had done in facilitating them lining their pockets and developing missiles and things for war and not feeding their own people. I think our commander-in-chief has done a brilliant job in keeping the American lives to a minimum as far as any loss of life in order to make the world safe. And as of our taping right now, it's on pause for a day or two because Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Qatar, I think that's how they say it, have asked our president to wait a couple of days. There might be something that they have brought together to stop all of this, which would be fantastic. No nuclear weapon. No nuclear weapons, people. So, one person at a time, we can change their minds from listening to the mind-numbing, far left garbage that they listen to day in and day out. And maybe even just a little bit of what we talk about, because everything comes down to the elections, even though I've kind of gotten off track a little bit, but it matters whom we elect. And again, you need to vote in the primaries and you need to vote in the general election in order for your vote and voice to be heard. Yeah, we know there's all kinds of fraud. Don't worry about that. We're on top of it. We know there's going to be issues and things will get cleaned up. So make sure you vote and then you have your voice. So once again, thank you for watching and listening to SYNC-O-WICZ. I'm Linda SYNC-O-WICZ, the founder and CEO of Fight Voter Fraud. You can find us on OBBM Network TV, Rumble, YouTube, Spotify, and a number of other platforms. And don't forget, if you have a candidate that you would want to get on our spotlight, send an email to Linda, Linda, at fightvoterfraud.org, and we would be happy to do a 20-minute interview with them. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next week.